Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast with host Kat Ward. Welcome, my friends, to Paranormal Heart Podcast. This segment tonight is pre-recorded streaming on United Public Radio Network 107.7 New Orleans. I'm your host, Kat Ward. Thanks so much for tuning in again. Before I introduce my guest, I'd like to mention that Paranormal Heart Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. All information shared in this podcast is not professional advice. The views and opinions expressed on Paranormal Heart Podcast are not necessarily those of the show host, network, or producers. So my special guest tonight is Priscilla Rosado-Cruz. Priscilla is a freelance video vixen and entertainer, dance, model, psychic, astrologer, vegan, published author. She's a whole ball of different things. On this segment, Priscilla would discuss astrology, and I'm very excited because I've never really covered this topic before. So for those of you who don't know a lot about astrology, like myself, we shall learn together. And for those of you who are already familiar about the topic, I'm sure you're going to love Priscilla as much as I do. She's very knowledgeable on the subject. So please help me welcome Priscilla. Hello, Priscilla.
Hi. Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So am I. We had a few little mishaps in the beginning. Oh, Lordy. Me and technology sometimes just do not jive. And again, I apologize. So
all good.
Please. And there was some great stuff being said. So could you please, Priscilla, tell us again how you got into astrology?
All right. So we'll begin from the top.
Okay.
So I was 8 years old when I first got introduced to the horoscopes, which is mainly how we all know there's 12 signs. I would watch this Spanish novela segments with my mother. I'm Hispanic. My mom's from Puerto Rico, and it was very predominant in the home. And in Spanish culture, the news then would have astrology segments, like I said earlier, that would never be on CNN here in America. Maybe in the future. I feel like we're growing towards that because astrology really is starting to get very wide and open, and more people are finding out about it. It's funny. I'll encounter people like, what's your sun, moon, and rising? I'm like, oh, they know their natal chart. So the sun, moon, and rising is your id, ego, and super ego in psychology. So this is kind of like the default word that most of us say in the astrology world. But So anyways, I'd watch the novellas with my mom, and at around 9-10 p.m. the news segment would come on, and I would beg my mom, let me stay. I want to see this, the astrology segment. And we had a guy, his name was Walter Mercado. He was a Puerto Rican astrologer. He was very known in the Spanish community. He even crossed over into the, Americas. He got very big for a while there. He even has a museum in Florida that I have to go to one day.
Oh, that's interesting.
You can Google him. There's so much about him. He was very extravagant. Like I was telling you earlier, he was a Pisces sun, and you can totally see it in his, his energy, because he was so extravagant. He wore polish on his nails, and he had a cape, and he was such a mystic, and I was in such awe of this guy. I'm a Pisces rising, so our energies resonated, and I would I have to hear my zodiac. So my mom would let me stay up till, Scorpio came on. And, that's when I started learning about astrology in the first place. From there, I would find books in, the library at school. I would read this comic book from 10 to 13, I want to say, Archie and Veronica.
Comic. Yep.
Me too. I love it. Jughead.
Yeah.
And so in the back, they always had the astrology segment there. And I would always read, minds and my family members and my mom and everybody. And I always found wow, it's for the most part, it was accurate. And so it kind of just went with me throughout my lifetime, because it was more like it found me from just little moments that kind of got dropped in my life. And so I want to say I was 21, and I was raised very religious. Okay. So, back then in the early 90s, 2000s, we were really taught God, heaven, hell, the devil, religion, sin, and things like this. So, I've always heard that horoscopes were magic, or they weren't good, or stay away from them, or it's not true. It's made up fun stuff. But I always was drawn to that whole mystical side and the dark stuff and like Ouija boards and all that weird stuff.
Yep.
I always felt like a witch growing up. So, that stuff followed me. And there was many, many pockets in my life that would bring up astrology or horoscopes. So I was 21 and, I was an entertainer at the time, and I felt very, very chastised working in an industry like that because I was raised very religious. So,
Mm-hmm.
I would battle with myself, and I'd be like, God, obviously I would talk to God in my head, and I'd be like, God, like if I'm going to go to hell, but I have to, use this to support my child, like where is the happy medium here? How do I fix this? So I just got this urge, like I need to go research, like who is God? What is God? What is astrology, horoscopes? What is all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And so when I really woke up to this stuff, it was through the Bible. Ironically, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I was following this Hebrew Israelite cult thing. I'm going to call them a cult because they're radical. And so I was learning about like what my so-called bloodline was from, like a specific tribes of Israel and blah, 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 blah. And what really intrigued me about it was more so that they would actually, the Messianic Hebrew Israelites would bring up astrology. They used it. And I was like, but astrology was, evil. I don't get it. Right. So, I started digging on my own. And when I started digging, I found what is called the Book of Enoch. So because I was so into the Bible and I'm seeing little parts in the Bibles, like it didn't matter if it was a King James version. It didn't matter if it was a new translation. Actually, those were more like, wow, opening to me because I could understand the lingo versus the old English.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I started seeing like astrology or horoscopes or stuff from the stars in these passages. Like for instance, there's a passage, I can't remember the book, the chapter, I'll have to look it up. But it says the Mazaroth, and that's a Hebrew word for the horoscope. And that's in the Bible.
Interesting.
Well, I was like, hold on a second. What is this? Like, you know what I mean? So
that must have been mind blown.
Oh, it was. That curiosity.
Yeah.
I was going to go on detective mode.
Yeah.
So the Scorpio that I am, I was like, I'm digging. And I found the Book of Enoch. I found that there was these books that were taking out the Bible in a specific era and time frame, why they were taken out. I started researching and digging, looking into more cultural stuff and history. And then I started tying in all this stuff because it was like, okay, this stuff's starting to make sense now. This is the bigger picture versus the subtle indoctrination that we're given.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so then from there, I went in the Book of Enoch and maybe a couple other books like the Book of Jubilees. A few of them had a lot of information about the stars. Okay. I heard in the Book of Enoch was this one passage that said wheels within wheels. And I instantly understood that was the orbits. And I was like, oh, wheels within wheels, because things orbit differently.
Yeah.
Like we might go one way, but the stars are going this way and things are going. And I was like, these are the wheels within wheels because we're within a solar system. Right. So I was like, oh my God. So my mind's like going crazy.
Yeah.
Then about 25. Okay. Fast forward. I was married at the time. Me and my husband were struggling, like we weren't getting along or whatnot. And I'm trying to teach him this stuff. And he was, you're going to go to hell. Like it was just a lot of controversy. It was my first controversy when it came up to this stuff. So he gave me thick skin. Around that time, I was on a lot of horoscope or astrology groups on Facebook. I started, adding myself to things because I was curious. I was digging, I was researching, I was using internet archives to really figure out what all this was. I didn't want to feel chastised anymore. I didn't want to feel like I was going to go to hell. I was like, life's got to be more than these easy 1, 2, 3. Like life's so complicated, intricate. This can't be. And so in the group, I found what I was telling you earlier, it was like a group of 6,000 people. Okay. It was a ton of people that talked about astrology and the stars and
like all in one chat room.
Yes. And from there is where I really learned a whole lot because people would say things and I'd be like, what the hell does that mean? And I'd Google. And I was like, oh, and then Google. I'm like, oh, and I started piecing things together. I started buying books. And then I ran into Micah Dank in this group. And he was just there. He was different because everybody was talking astrology, but nobody was correlating astrology with religion and biblical stuff yet or mythology. I was already doing that. And so when I seen Micah commenting a certain comment, I'm like, oh, wait, hold on a second. I'm going to inbox this guy. And we hit it off. And from there, we kind of like shared what we knew. And I was I was practicing astrology then. Like I said earlier, that it was more so a party favor, or on Facebook, I would advertise my smarts and what I knew. And I would attract people, and people would be like, okay, you want to do a reading for me? I was like, you know what? Sure. I'm going to start. At first it was free. And then I was like, all right, let me start charging 25 because I started getting more volume. And then as I started getting really good, I started putting myself through certification programs and classes, because there's a lot of that out there too. There's actually a .org site for like big conventions for astrologers and astrology folks. And this happens yearly. Like, it's so huge out there that we don't even know about it.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
I didn't know about that.
Oh my gosh, it's the whole world, to the point where like I'm at, like, I charge, a good amount now because I have a lot of clients. I have literally 12 a week for sure that come see me and get readings from me. So, it's turned into a lot of work. Oh yeah, because I think, like I was saying earlier, people want such a quick turnaround, but they don't realize, like, this isn't just your sun. Like, I'm looking at your nativity. I'm looking at a map of who you are. While we have like DNA and biology that shows those intricates and how like microscopic things get, it's the same thing with astrology. You can synthesize things. There's fixed stars, there's asteroids, there's, you have degrees, which is degree theories. You have the aspects of transits that are happening. And then you have different charts for whatever type of readings you want to do. Like, so for right now, I do like past life readings. I do your nativity reading. Oh, wow. I do transits, which is going to tell me, a month ahead, 2 months, 3 months, however far you want to go. I do synastry, which is two couples. People come to me a lot to like, is this person the right person for me? And, I tell them like, well, it's not about what's right or wrong. It's about, are you willing to make the decision to work through all this? Or this person might be more karmic for you. This one's more easy. Like, and this is really just the reality of life, Yeah. I always tell people, it's like, it's dual. We live in a dual world. So that person that you call evil might be evil for you, but he might not be evil for another person.
Yep. Exactly.
Because our energies, it's all about the energy at the end of the day. We really are energetic beings, and we are stardust. So we come from, those planets, and they play a big role in our lives here. Whatever's happening above is what's happening below. So.
Yeah, like I mentioned to you earlier, I used to think for the longest time that astrology was just like the 12 signs and that's it, but it's a lot more intricate. And so like kudos to people like you who really delve into the research, because there's a lot that you have to do. Like, I can't imagine.
I think that passion for me is what helps me to like stay focused and do it and get so deep. Me being a Scorpio, we're like the detectives of the zodiac anyway, so I can really zero in on something and just break it down to the minutest. And it's like, got it, like, there it is, there's that fact. And so I can eagle eye those things. And I enjoy it. I enjoy being able to find ways for people to mitigate things in their lives. Astrology will call you out. It's very, very like, if you are not an evolved soul, this is not something most people would like. And this is why you won't see a lot of people gravitate towards astrology that are not open-minded, because once you start to hear about your own personal nativity and you get to see the shadow parts of you and hear that, a lot of us are going to reject it. No, that's not me. Like,
yeah.
So you have to be very mature. I can tell you this, like, when I got really deep into it and I finally created a business, it was around COVID time. It was actually 2021. Right after COVID. COVID put fire under my ass, like it did everybody.
Yep. Sure did.
And so I was like, you know what? Let me do something that I'm skillful, that I know is an inherited skill. Let me put it out there, right? And I've dealt with psychic abilities my entire life. And like, I never knew how to handle it. And I'd always thought I was like, either I was crazy or, you know what I mean? Like, I would be or things would happen. I would be like, man, I knew it. Like, I should have listened to that gut or that intuition. Like, and so throughout my life, I was like confused about it. And I think astrology really helped me to hone in with my skills and synthesize it somewhere and put it on a 2D form where I can actually logic what was happening.
Yep.
Versus like, what is this going on? So I love that tool, because it helps me to bring forth some of my other gifts. But yeah, like, it's crazy. Astrology is so deep. There's so much to it. There are astrologers that are way, way, way better than I am, that I absolutely love and I adore. I've got a ton of books, a ton of people I follow. And it's such a big thing that it's not really known to the public, which that some people are, there's astrologers that are making 500 a reading, 1,000 a reading. Like
Wow.
there's a real market and a real business out there for it. So, it's just not everybody's thing, but for the ones that can make it a thing, they do very well. So
is there a lot of intuition when you do this as well? So, because I know people who do tarot reading or crystal ball, there's a lot of intuition as well. So,
yes. So tarot is actually the same version of what astrology is. It's just through the cards. So it's the same thing. Like I can take tarot cards and I can associate them with specific signs and houses. So it's the same thing. So is numerology and so is cardology. These are number systems. It's because everything's a binary code. So, and I don't think people realize that, like the world itself is a binary code. It's a matrix, just like our DNA is. There is a coding to all of us and everything outside of us. So it's the same thing. I'm just looking at the coding of your when you took your first breath. And this is the coding of this matrix. I say that's what gets everything going, because it's the sun gives life, right? We need the moon for the lighting at night or whatever. The moon kind of rules. Well, it doesn't rule, but it dictates the oceans. They say when the moon is full, the waves are bigger. So,
that's
so it all goes together. Yes. And so there's a ton of intuition and psychic. So I hear a lot when I'm doing readings. I will just, obviously I'm looking at the, what's the word I'm looking for? The articulation of it, like that's not the word, like the very 2D science aspects of it. I'm looking at that, but I'm also hearing things and I'm like, oh, okay, let me tell them this, and this is what I'm seeing.
Interesting.
Here. Yeah. And it helps a lot. Yeah. You have to, anybody can be an astrologer if you learn the stuff, right? It's a lot of learning. But I think that the best astrologers are the psychics, because they're able to use a method. This becomes the tool for them to practice and push what they're knowing about. So
I wonder if that's why. Remember when I told you that I've encountered astrologers before, and it just did not resonate. It just like they were reading something. Maybe they don't have the gift. Yeah,
there's a ton of people that love astrology.
That makes sense.
And they're doing it, and like you said, they don't. And like on a very soul level, they don't have that gift. They just know how to do it. And there's a reason for that, because if I look at someone's nativity and they want to be an astrologer and they have not a marking at all to be an astrologer, I'll tell them, you don't have the marking to be an astrologer. Like maybe, you're supposed to do other occult stuff, because there's a ton of different tools. Like I said, there's tarot, there's numerology, there's, human design, there's the gene keys, there's astrology, there's a ton. And I don't do gene keys. That's another format. That's another binary code.
I've never heard of that. Gene keys.
That's a lot like human design. I do human design, but I don't do the gene keys. And it's almost the same thing. It's someone that created the same type of mathematical method and binary code in order to use it as a divination tool. Because that's what this is. These are divination tools.
Yep, exactly.
So, and it's like I said, it's just a tool to help me kind of translate what I'm sensing, feeling, and seeing for a person.
Interesting.
So. And it's crazy too, because this astrology really showed me that I was really good with my psychic gifts, because I would already feel something and see things on people. And then when I go to the chart, I confirm it. And I'm like, oh, there it is. So I love it.
The confirmation is so amazing.
Oh, yeah. Especially when I can call something out. I tell people, well, in 2 weeks, this is going to happen. Be careful. And boom. And they're like, shoot. And I'm like, well, this is my secret. Use astrology.
Yeah.
You have to be a psychic for time your best life.
Yeah.
I do believe as we move closer to this age of Aquarius, further into the future, this golden age that we keep hearing, I do believe astrology will be very predominant in everyone's lives, because this is how they lived in Atlantis and Lemuria times. This is how they lived in ancient times. They followed that coding that the source left us. That is a roadmap for you, and God or source, whatever it is, it left it for all of us. But somehow it's been suppressed through patriarchy and religious dogmas and all of this control. And now people to wake up, and this is because we're the age of Aqua. Aquarius rules the higher mind. It's like the mad scientist, so it rules in higher intelligence, and it also rules the infinite knowing, knowing, not believing. Pisces is the era of believing, and we're leaving that era. Now it's the era of knowing.
Okay.
We're not going to be asked. We're not going to be believing anymore. We're going to know for the facts.
Yeah, because so many, like more and more people are just waking up and realizing all this stuff now. And it's like we've been sheltered, I guess. That's not the word that I'm looking for.
We've been dumbed down.
Yeah.
We've been dumbed down to be controlled.
Yes, exactly.
And the reason for the control is because, there is, I do believe in star seeds. I believe I can also, that's another thing. I can put in your charts star seeds to see what star seeds is very predominant in your chart. See what you are genetically related to. So it's really
awesome.
Cool. And then I don't think people know, but doctors back in the 18, 17, 1600s couldn't be doctors unless they knew astrology. That was part of their prerequisites.
That's right. Huh.
So there's a power to this. It's in the Bible.
There is. Yep.
It's used for, I've heard there's been astrologers that work with political people, FBI.
Oh, yeah.
Finding the missing. There's a lot of this if you dig. I actually have a couple books into criminal astrology because I'm learning death and criminal astrology. That's
interesting.
Oh, it's so.
Wow.
There's a group that it's a private group, but there's a group on Facebook that I'm attached to. Only reason why I won't close out my Facebook. Sometimes I want to delete it and I can't. I was like, I'm in that group. I learned so much there because there's a lot of professional criminal astrologers in there and death astrologers. And so we go through specific charts. We use people that have already died and we learn like boom, 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 how the person died, when they were going to die based on what orbits and what position in the sky, what degree activated it. And so it really teaches me to look at someone's chart and to be able to know like, maybe how they'll pass or when their family member might pass or things like that. Even sickness, I can look. So because again, there's a thing called medical astrology, which was something that was very big for doctors. They had to learn that stuff. But there is, in this group, I even use, they use, and I kind of sit in the background and observe, but they learn how to find missing people, how to be able to look at it, because it's criminal astrology, how to really look at a story and tell you down to the T what's actually happening versus what we're hearing in the news. So yeah, I
didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh yeah, there's criminal astrology. There's this one astrology called draconian, and that's really to understand your past life energy when your most recent incarnation, what you lived and what you did then, and that karma's even occurred in this life, why you're kind of going through what you're going through. So that's part of the past life readings as well. And then we have another astrology that's called event astrology, which I do a lot. We're getting thunder here.
I saw the flash.
Yeah, we had tornado watch all day. We even had some tornadoes in Kentucky.
But you're safe, right?
Oh yeah, we're good. I'm like,
okay.
So, but like, it's like February. What the hell we have this weather? It was just snow.
Just heard the boom.
Yeah, it is.
Wow. It just adds the ambience.
No, it does.
The ambiance.
It's perfect. I totally forgot what I was saying.
Oh yeah. Oh jeepers. Yeah, just about
the astrology.
Yeah, that like I said, I didn't even know that was a thing. That's really fascinating.
That's what it was. There's also the astrology called event astrology. And so I do these a lot because I like to see what is going to happen a month from now in the news, in the world stage. So I do event astrology to understand the world at large. And you can really like tell when things are going to happen. Like for instance, I wrote a post on Facebook. I'll pull it up and I'll read it to you real quick. But this one was about that helicopter and airplane crashed.
Yep.
And so I did a chart for it. I saw another really prominent astrologer. Her name is Lori Lothian, one of my favorites. She's been doing this like 40 years. She was also a medium. She was also did remote viewing and worked with like big people. And then she became a YouTube astrologer. Like this lady's like the real deal.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from her. I took a lot of her courses. And so I'll just kind of read it to you, but this is what I said. So I said, according to Lori Lothian, the asteroid Rebecca was conjunct Uranus, and another asteroid Rebecca was also conjunct Chiron. And Icarus and Aquarius was also involved in this, conjunct the sun. Icarus represents a fall from grace, the wings burning, literal translation. Okay. Uranus rules aviation. Jupiter rules planes and is in its detriment and was retrograde during this time. And I put from my research of that day, the stars show activation to all planets and asteroids above in squares. And squares in astrology, they're 90-degree angles. They represent discord, disruption, fights, very chaotic energy. We're born with these energies. Everybody has squares somewhere in their chart. But when they're happening in space while we're living, they can bring up problems. So whenever you have problems, once you start learning astrology and you have, say you're having a week of hell and like, man, everything's going bad. And you'll go look, you'll see something prominently squaring you that's causing the tension. And then ways to fix it or work within it. So I put that in here, like basically that the square was happening, and I put Sun square Uranus by whole sign. And sure enough, the pilot on the helicopter's name that collided with the airplane was named Rebecca. So when you put these two asteroids, you can see what was going to happen that day. Uranus rules chaos and accidents, unexpected events. And so Rebecca was sitting right there on top of Uranus in square to the sun that had Icarus conjunct. And Icarus is literally flying too close to the sun, burning the wings. And what did we see?
Yep.
And I basically was just showing the chart, I wish I could show you the diagram, but like there's a whole diagram and how it looks, and you can see basically what was going to happen. Like if she had an astrologer, she might have been able to avoid such a catastrophe. You see what I'm saying? So astrology has its place, but it's really up to the world at large, humanity, how much they're willing to wake up to it. We both are realizing people are starting to wake up more. People are starting to kind of peep what's happening. The veil is lifting. So, I do predict about 10 years out, astrology will be way, way bigger than what it is right now.
Wow. Yeah. It's because I remember even when I was a lot younger, a lot of people, especially if they have money, they would not do anything without consulting their astrologer.
Yes. Or a medium or a psychic. And, in the Eastern world, that's very popular. I mean, there's a whole, I think it's the Indians. They won't even marry their family members until they consult an astrologer. They consult an astrologer for marriage, for who they're going to merge with, for their legacy. And, this was also done in those times. I mean, if you look back into like the, I think it's like the Queen and King's time, I forgot what medieval times, they had astrologers. They had astrologers as well. They did not do anything unless they consulted their fortune teller. But it's kind of been redacted as fortune teller in our era. So we don't really get that. When we hear that, we're like, oh yeah, the lady with the ball at the circus. Like, yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
We had Miss Cleo on TV for years. Like that just made they kind of ruined it for everybody in our era.
Oh yeah, definitely. So we're about halfway through the episode. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what's going to be happening this year?
Sure. Okay, we can start with this month. We have this full moon in Leo, okay? And I'll talk about the world stuff for now, and then I'll kind of get deeper with people's personal signs. But this full moon in Leo, right? It's very, very, very important for people with Leo suns placements, Leo moons, and Leo risings. If you don't know, like I said, go to an online source, put online astrology chart free, and it'll pop up and you can put your information in there and you will see it. So Trump, our president here in the United States, he is a Leo rising. Okay. So this full moon actually affects him. Now, full moons and new moons have 6-month intervals. This is how the moon cycles work. So whenever you have a new moon or a full moon, you have to give it 6 months to see what this actually represents. And within that 6 months, what's going to happen. So I suspect that with this full moon, I think it's at, let me see, what degree is this at? 24 degrees. Yes. It is literally 5 degrees conjunct where Trump's rising sign is. Okay. The rising sign for anybody represents your identity, your persona, the mask that you wear, how people meet you in first impressions, and the lens that you see the world through. Okay. So your sun sign doesn't determine how people see you. They don't see your sun sign. People see your rising sign.
Okay.
And that's so important to know, because even though we are our sun, which is our core identity, we don't show that. We don't show that until we're kind of like in a leadership position, or we're like more so comfortable with the room that we're in. You know, I say the sun starts to come out about a month, 2 months in of really knowing people and in a group, right?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
your rising sign is what speaks for you first. They say your energy speaks for you before you speak for yourself. This would be the rising sign. And so Trump's is Leo. With that full moon on February 12th, this can indicate, you know, something he started 6 months ago kind of comes to a full light and full fruition. So if we think about 6 months ago, that's January, December, November, October. What comes before October? September, August. Something in August, which was happening with Trump. I'm not really sure. I'd have to look in the news and see what was happening in August around his life. Will come to a full head on February 12th. And we will hear something about that in the world stage. Because full moons moon in general represents the people. So when the moon is full, the people are crazy. And I don't know if you ever realized, like, hospitals, jail, prisons, accidents are really, really crazy during a full moon. Yeah. So we can expect that. So if you're a Leo person, Leo sun, moon, and rising predominantly, you can expect to have a full completion, a full light, a full, culminating point of something that you had planted a seed with back in August. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so going back to what I'm saying for Trump, this opposes his 7th house, which is open enemies. Astrologically, your 7th house represents your marriage partners, but also represents your business partners, but also your open enemies. How funny is that? And this is why people, and when in astrology, when I'm doing synastry, the 7th house is the first marriage. This is why the first marriage is the house of open enemies, because nobody really ever stays with their first partner. It's very rare. And they're privy to your personal life. So, your first marriage partner sometimes can become your enemy because they know so much about you, but they're open on you. They're not hidden. They're right there in your face. Yep. And the 7th house is also a house of litigating and attorneys. So it's so funny that we can see when I divorcing or getting ready to get into some type of litigation, I always can see that the 7th house is involved in that. So anyways, with Trump, it looks like it also, because it opposes that house for him, it's going to activate some stuff over there. And when we have full moons, it represents the sun and the moon in opposing energy. So the sun will be in his 7th house of open enemies, and sun is leaders. So what leaders are going to be trying to oppose him? And we're going to hear shit in the news about that. So there's that going on. So this year, it's very, very big with Neptune and Saturn conjunction that we're going to see. And this conjunction, it doesn't fully go into effect until next year, 2026. But we're going to get a little bit of a preview of this, because Saturn's going to go into Aries, and then he'll be there for a couple months, and then he'll retrograde and go back into Pisces. But next year, February 2026, he goes direct. Saturn represents governments, okay? Represents the CEO, corporations, big players in the world. He's the boss, okay? In mythology, Saturn was the father of Jupiter, Pluto, Neptune, all the Olympians. Those were his children, okay? But Saturn was a bad leader. He would eat his own children. This is where the practice of Moloch comes from, because it's a Saturn worship. I don't know if you know about the practice of Moloch, where an owl in Bohemian Grove, and they give children to that burning thing. Yeah, so they sacrifice children to Moloch. So if you ever get a chance, Google it. It's so interesting. Yeah. But that ritual and those beliefs, they stem from Saturn worship, because Saturn used to eat his children. So it's based off that mythology, and they pay homage to that god. Okay. So anyways, so Saturn will be moving. He's been in Pisces for almost 3 years. Okay. Saturn orbits every 3 years into a sign. And when he was in Pisces, this is why we were seeing a lot of stories with water. I mean, we saw so much water stories, boats sinking, people going all the way into the water and disappearing. I remember that little submarine story.
Oh, yeah, that was horrible.
People were crazy. Yeah. Or the cruise ship where all those people fell off on the cruise water over there, or all these hurricanes and tsunami warnings. We had cyclones. Like, we had so much stuff floodings everywhere. Look what happened in North Carolina. I mean, this is just here. People didn't pay attention to what's happening on the other side of the world, all the flooding that was happening over there. And these are, Piscean stories, because Pisces rules the ocean. So does Neptune. Neptune was also co-present in Pisces while Saturn's been over there. And Saturn represents time is up energy. So he's father time. He rules over clocks and literally time. So he rules over all that orbit that's happening. And when Saturn moves into specific signs, he comes to, tally up and it's the god of karma. So we've been experiencing a lot of what we would call karma through oceanic issues and, border issues and refugees. Pisces rules refugees. It rules immigrants. So we're seeing a lot of that happening right now. And then so Saturn he's going to move for a little bit though in May, I believe. Let me see. I got to pull up my notes. I think it's around May something. He moves and he'll be there until September. Let me see. Give me a second. I have so many notes, dude. I never know which one's which. Oh my goodness. All right, I'll look for it later. But so with him moving there, he's going to reset. Okay, they really reset February of 2026. God Neptune, the god Saturn. But we're going to get a preview of this. And since Saturn rules governments and Neptune rules no borders because it represents a dissolving of them. This is why we're seeing what Trump is doing, the dissolving of all these borders, trying to buy Greenland, trying to change the ocean name by Mexico, trying to get Canada to come merge with us. And people are like, that's not going to happen. You guys, this is going to happen. We are going to dissolve the borders, and we're going to start seeing a lot of that this year, where people are going to start to merge into alliance. Why? We're in the age of Aqua, where everything is about community. Aquarius rules the energy of community and humanitarianism. And that's what we see ushering in. Obviously, there's a lot of fear mongering because people don't like change.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people getting uprooted from their comfort zones, and I mean, look what we're seeing, this mass deportation stuff going on here in the States. And that's Mars. That's Mars and Cancer. Mars is military, it's soldiers, it's in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is the worst place Mars can be. Mars doesn't like to be in that sign. That's the worst house. He's in his fallen state. He's in what we call his exile. So he's confused over it, okay? And then he's in retrograde. So he's really like, oh my God, he goes direct though, February 23rd of this month. When he goes direct, get ready to see what we're seeing now as far as the military, the mass deportation, ISIS, because Mars, again, is like police, military. It's all combat energy. It's the god of war. We're going to start seeing this move faster, a lot faster. So from the end of February until April 18th, we're going to see this speed up, massive events. We will probably see more, we've been seeing a little bit here and there, protests. Get ready for that to implode. That's going to get crazier because, Trump is bringing that iron rod even more. Which tells me maybe this is what this full moon is about, is that he brings in some message to the people because it's going to be square Uranus on the 12th of February. And Uranus is about progression. It's about future oriented stuff. It's about chaotic and it comes to liberate and shake shit up. It doesn't care about what anybody thinks. If you think about Uranus, it's the only planet in the solar system that spins on its axis. That's a rebellious mother effer. He ain't doing it. He's not doing what everybody else is doing. He's very
doing his own thing.
Yeah, and he rules electricity, so he's very fast moving. When he's impacted, it comes like a lightning bolt. You don't expect it, but it comes to liberate you and to open up the paradigms. Whereas Saturn is more so a square. It's like playing within the rules, the government, the laws, the borders. Stay in your box. Uranus is actually, let's break out of this box. So I think this full moon is going to be quite intense because it has a T square, and T squares are very, very, very intense. So whatever I think happens February 12th with whatever news about financials, I'll tell you that much. There's going to be news about financials because Uranus is in Taurus. It's now direct. Taurus rules money, agriculture, food, our financial system. It rules all the comforts of our lives, things that make us aesthetically happy, that feed our five senses. Taurus is a very five senses sign. It likes luxuries and it likes to be comfortable. It's very calm until push because it's a bull.
Yes.
You're a Taurus.
Yep.
I have a little brother who's a Taurus, and then my daughter is a Taurus moon. So, they're very chill people until provoked. So with that Uranus energy in there, you can expect that to be like very provoking. So you will feel this full moon as well. Keep in mind, because you're a Taurus and this is going to square you. And so there will be some sense of a challenge or some discord. And again, because it rules Aquarius, we have the sun there now. This could be just issues on the world stage with leaders, maybe a country trying to threaten us with some chaos, like who knows? I got to be real, because when Mars goes direct February 23rd, we're looking at Martian energy. Martian energy, again, god of war. We're looking at war. I don't think that these plane crashes are ultimately just they're falling out of the sky. I think there is some stuff we can't see going on. And it could be with that Uranian energy of electrical devices. You know what I mean? Somebody's zapping things. I know one of the plane crashes I saw, it looked like a meteor hit the ground, because it was like, it wasn't. And you've seen, I don't know if you Googled, but I Googled other plane crashes and they never destroyed the ground like that. So it was very like, I don't know.
And it even kind of looked like there was something, like when they just went forward, it's just like, that doesn't look like an aircraft hitting another. It just didn't make sense to me.
I don't think it is either. I think also with that Rebecca crash, that Captain Rebecca, that was we saw it. We saw them collide. If you compare that to the other ones, you're not seeing that. You're seeing some really like unexpected, like shocking things. And I think it's very Iranian, very, very Iranian. Something is shooting this stuff from the sky. That's my personal opinion. Don't go with that.
Extraterrestrial, or is it terrestrial?
No, I think it could be a little bit of both of what's going on. I think from what I can see, the alien stories are definitely going to start to implode more.
Oh, yeah.
Especially once Uranus in July moves into the sign of Gemini, and it starts to trine Pluto. We're going to hear so much about, Pluto rules the little Martian guys. It rules like alien life and nuclear energy. It rules. And anytime we have things in history, if you look into ufology, anytime we have a lot of things with nuclear stuff, we get a lot of alien people or things happening. So I can see that also being something very prevalent from July and on this year. So that'll be exciting. That one I like. I think that these beings or entities, I think it's like us. There's good, there's bad. That's the reality.
Yeah. I believe that too. Yeah.
I talk to people that get into, I don't know if you do, but they get into like the whole Galactic Federation, and
I'm starting to get into that a little bit.
Yeah. And so I do think that our governments have associations with other worldly beings or entities. Obviously they know more, which is why maybe they were suppressing so much from us, but we're in an era that they can't suppress anything anymore. So it's starting to really, really like come out, something else let's go back. I want to look at the end. So we got a lot going on with this Pisces and Aries energies for the next till May. Okay. May is when we really start to push forward. I would say more so June. Like by June, the stuff in the United States starts to get better because Jupiter will go into Cancer. That's the sign of the United States. And Jupiter exalts in the sign of Cancer, meaning it does its best. Imagine Jupiter's like a person and he's on vacation. He's in his vacation home and there. So everything's smooth and he's happy and he's jolly. We have that going for 1 year from June all the way to next July for the United States. So I think that's going to be very massively important because it brings a sense of protection. Jupiter is the guardian angel. He is, the king of Mount Olympus. He rules all of the other, planets at this point. It was Saturn, which both of them fight for the throne because Saturn is the father and Jupiter is the son. They are related. So, and Jupiter was the one that freed Pluto, Neptune, and his other Olympian siblings from his father's stomach. He tricked them. And when that happened, Jupiter became the king of the gods and this earth. So I think this is what we're seeing. We're seeing this transition from a very Saturnian realm and rulership moving into a more Jupiterian rulership. And that brings a sense of freedom too, because Uranus is very much in this story. And Uranus is the grandfather of Jupiter. He was the father of Saturn. So in the mythology, Saturn also castrated his father and took the throne.
Wow.
And so it came back to him. Karma. Talk about karma. Saturn's karma. The karma came back to him when his son Jupiter was outsmart him and freed his siblings, and they cast out their father. So we're on a mythological level. That's what's happening here on the earth. We're transitioning into that, and of course, the time and space is non-existent. So things don't go at that rate. It goes at our rate here. So we
Mhm.
are going to see things happen before we even get there, you know? But with that being said, there's a lot going on with the energy of Pisces. Pisces rules the energy of, like I said, refugees, the
Mhm.
disenfranchised, you know, homelessness, drug addicts. It rules hospitals. It rules asylums. It rules foreign places, foreign lands, places of moksha, release, you know, spiritual retreats. Pisces rules anything that has to do with oceanic stories. The collective unconscious is what Pisces is. So it's where all of our dreams and our fears and the ghosts live. Pisces is very much connected to the other dimensions. It's in between. That's why there's two fish. Pisces can swim up or it can swim down.
I never knew that.
Because it's
Oh,
conscious and unconscious.
yeah.
And so Pisces
Wow.
seem very dreamy, like they're in La La Land, right?
Mhm.
And it's because they're very in tune with the other dimension. They're very creative people,
Mhm.
and so they pull from that ethereal realm. And so a lot of what we're seeing up until about like May is all this energy in this Piscean reality, which is everything I said: refugees, homelessness,
Yeah.
health situations, you know, issues with the oceans and the borders. You know, I think the stuff with the traveling is going to calm down. Once Uranus in July moves into Gemini, I think that will change. But what's going to happen is a major transformation. I think with all the aviation issues that we're seeing,
Mhm.
there's some new technology that I can predict is going to come through, especially for traveling.
Hmm.
And I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like it's something so fast and so like, because it's Uranus. Uranus is very lightning bolt energy. So maybe new ways to fly. I don't know, but maybe flying cars.
Interesting.
I do.
Teleportation. Who knows?
Yeah, yes, because Pisces would be considered teleportation. That is actually very wise. Yes, so anything like that, I feel like could start to really show itself within the
Yep.
summertime, and as we move until next year. And then like things with education are going to change too. I see a lot more digital and technological stuff happening for, you know, educational realities, for transits and transport and travel, and even for like the medical reality of things, because we have a lot of eclipses in Pisces Virgo axes from now until next, you know, half of 2026. And wherever we have eclipses and signs there, it's like the wheel of fortune. Things get taken out, new things come in.
Okay.
And so it kind of is up for grabs, right? Back in the days, eclipses represented omens that were bad. Whenever there was eclipses, there would be a king would die or something, right? You know? And so as we got more evolved, we realized like it's not everything to fear so much. Back then they would cover up, they wouldn't go outside. Like, you know, I still practice if there's an eclipse. I do wear white. I try to stay out of the rays because, you know, whenever there is an eclipse, you don't want those rays to fall on you. They represent doom or you know, a couple years of bad luck type of energy.
Okay. Yeah. I
But
didn't
in
know
fact,
that.
yeah, so I usually do a lot of like going within and practicing meditation around that time because I try to hear what these eclipses are saying. Why? Because they're portals. That's what they really are. They're portals. This is why things come in and people go out around this time. And so Virgo and Pisces are under this energy up until next year. They're going to be eclipsed with a lot of parts, areas in their lives, specifically their, you know, their identity, their persona, the character they're here playing in the world is their avatar is shifting. So by 2026, next year, like June-ish, around then, you can expect Virgo and Pisces are going to be brand new people. They aren't going to be, they're not playing the cards in the reality they were before. They're ushering in something new. Which is why I keep saying also that things with border, ocean, healthcare, you know, anything that's Piscean, spiritual, occult, like mysticism, you know, ghost. Pisces rules places of unseen as well. So prisons, asylums, jails. You know, we'll see so much changes with those stories as well. Neptune is technically in astrology can represent like espionage or like crime families or crime that we can't see because it's like it's hidden. You know, it's not just Scorpio, it's Pisces also. And so having, you know, Neptune there and it's getting ready to move as well and then collide with Saturn and conjoin also this year, but also in 2026. I mean, this is to me telling me that hidden stuff with crimes around, you know, medical stuff is going to be very loud this year and next year. And we already kind of see some of that happening with the, you know, the thingy majigger.
Yeah, yeah. We shall not say.
Yeah, no, it's sensitive. But even more stuff. I feel like a lot of the criminality that we weren't privy to will start to come out, and this isn't just in, our health area, but what are these healthcare people doing? What were they being told to do, and not just with this thing, but with our healthcare for the last couple, generations. We're going, there, a lot of information is going to be released, and we can see that now with all the stuff Trump's doing.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, you might not like Trump. I didn't even vote. I don't do that. But, Trump astrologically he is what you would call the needle that breaks the camel's back. And so he's ushering in this new era we're being moved into. And, it took a very Uranian person, because we're in the age of Aqua, which rules Uranus rules Aquarius. And Uranus is literally sitting conjunct his sun sign in his 11th house of community and the collective. So he was that person to usher in what we're going to see, and what we're starting to see. The dismantling of government bodies is something really, really huge this year, next year. I do see a lot of stuff with ocean problems still, because Pisces rules the ocean. So I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but we're going to see some types of catastrophes, and probably maybe even more severe than last year. Because I know last year we had a whole lot happening. I can say this to kind of ease everybody. I don't know, for your international listeners or viewers, this might not be good, but more of the problems that I see are going to be, what we're seeing now, like Greece, all that, what you're seeing over there, that side of the world over there is kind of hitting more of where the rays will shine their light. So wherever the eclipses shine its rays, you see that part of the world go crazy. And we had all the eclipses last year in these specific areas that you saw: flooding, hurricanes, earthquakes. We had them. We were under the rays about 80%. And so this is why so much happened in the United States last year. Whereas this year, it's more so in the eastern part of the world. So, we can expect to see a lot of stuff going on over there. And I think a lot of it does tie to what Trump is doing on a world scale and wanting to force everybody else to do. So, a lot of good and bad, however you want to see it.
Yep.
And I always tell people that it's really just what, bad isn't necessarily bad. Like, I know that sounds so cliche, but more so,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's just dual. It's like we put an energy out, and whatever energy we put out, it rolls back. It's like this ripple effect. And so, there's been a lot of messed up things that we've done, or, as a collective, for our government bodies, for, specific people and organizations or whatever. And we're just really receiving that residual energy now. It's coming back. And, we're in a 9 year. Okay. 9 represents Mars. It's a Mars year. It's a fight year. It's a war year. It's a new beginning year, because Mars is 1. So we're getting ready to, but what's happening from January until, I want to say June-ish, April-ish, maybe June, because Mars will go into Leo in April. So around that time, that's when, like, Trump, from April to like June, Trump needs to really, like, war is huge for him, or weapons, or Mars rules weapons, wars, fights, arguments, discord, accidents. So, he's got a lot of tense energy on him around that time. Of course, he's making enemies with everybody.
Even Canadians, like, we're all like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and because it's going to dissolve that border to get you guys to merge along with Greenland. And, as much as people are saying it's not going to happen, I do see it happening at some point. It will. We're going to see the dissolving of borders, because it's more so, it's not just him, it's the script, what the universe is asking of us to do. And it's pushing that in. So it's putting its players in place to get that rolling. So always look at people as like the players. Like, you are an avatar too. You're playing a video game. So are they. So everybody's just trying to follow their script. And sometimes that causes discord, because you might not agree with that script. And there we go. We have a whole chaos happening. But I forgot what I was saying. Shit, I was going somewhere. I smoked before I got on here. Okay. That's my excuse.
I just want to say, sometimes when you have something negative happen, like you said, it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it forces Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You might
It
not even see
forces
it.
someone to follow a different path that they're meant to be on.
And then it puts you on exactly the right path. So
Yeah.
this is what we're seeing this year. Like, because it's a 9 year, we're seeing the completion of the 1 year. So in numerology, the sign I do is Caledalian. It's the most ancient version. I don't use the new ones because they got 22 and 11. And listen, guys, 1 through 9 is simple, because after 9, what does it do? It repeats 1 again.
Yeah.
And 0 is
Yeah.
the void. 0 is the void. So there is no 10 and keep going. It's a void. 1 and 1 turn into 2.
Yep.
1 and 2 turn into 3. So it starts over again. So I just use 1 through 9.
Interesting.
And because of this, and why I'm bringing this up is because when Trump came into office in 2017, it was a 1 year. He's back on a 9 year. He's here to complete what he started. That's what we're seeing on a universal level. We are completing what has started from 2017 until now. And next year we move into a 1 year, 10, 0 is the void, unlimited possibilities. And we restart this cycle, the next 9 year cycle next year.
That's wild.
It's it. It's all numbers. It's all numbers.
Yeah.
If you understand the numbers, astrology, numerology, it all breaks down to numbers. Even astrology is all vibration. Your Taurus sign, you're the vibration of 2, because you're number 2 in the zodiac. And then of course you have your own numerology and stuff, but your sign itself, the energy that you're embodying, is the sign of 2. It's the sign of the second house. You know, your energy embodies a lot of Taurian realities, and even Taurus itself is an energy. It's a binary code. It's a number. So everything has a sequence, and once you can break it down. So what I do is I just read the vibrations of the language, which is numbers. Why? Because in Hebrew, numbers and letters were the same.
Oh.
It's a language. I call that the language of the gods.
Just mind blown. Like, it really, holy cow.
Yeah. Anybody can do it, like I said before. It just depends on your passion and how deep you're willing to dig. Yeah. Some people don't like to dig so deep because they want to stay in the surface, comfortable, where it's easy playing ground. You know, think of a pool. Some people want to stay in 2, 3 feet, 4 feet. They don't want to go deep. They don't want to go to that 9 feet and dig what's all under there. They're afraid. I don't know what's down there. I can't swim. Like
that's me. I if my feet can't touch the bottom when I'm in the water, get me out. I don't like it.
Yeah, my mom's the same way too. She doesn't like to swim deep area, you know, and it's just, some people are like that, and that's okay. But it's the same thing with like the research. Some people like to dig, some don't. Some want surface, some want deeper, some want to make sense of life. Others are okay with just coasting. And, you know, I believe that some of it is because some people, whether they're real, you know, I think everybody's just here real, right? But everybody's at different vibrational levels. So some are very kind of NPC. They're just here to be the background, you know, players. And that's okay. That's their script this time around the wheel. That doesn't mean their next script they ain't gonna jump into the main character energy. Yeah. Like it's very, very real. So
that's amazing. Yeah. Well, we are at the end. I would love to have already. Yeah, I'm just so fixated on what you were saying. This is
I didn't even get to the zodiac signs yet.
Yeah, I know. I do want to have you on again because this is so interesting, and I'm sure my audience is going to find it as interesting as me. So before we sign off, if you could please let the audience know where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me at spiritcoachingastrology.com. Same thing with YouTube. I do have a YouTube channel. I don't have many videos up there. I'm going to get on there, guys. I'm just, I do a lot of private readings, so I don't have time to do videos, but I'm getting myself out there more, as you see. So spiritcoachingastrology.com on YouTube or my own website. I also have an app for iPhone, and you can download the app for quicker, faster service to book or watch some of the podcasts that I have on there.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. This was so educational for me. So interesting. I just love you. This is awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
So just hang tight. I'm going to save my farewells to the audience, and we'll just chat for a couple of minutes.
Okay, no problem.
If you're okay. Okay.
Yep, I'm here. Bye, y'all.
Well, folks, thank you so much to my special guest tonight. I really appreciate it. And UPRN 107.7 New Orleans. And remember, if you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to suggest a topic and/or a guest, drop me an email at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. Until next time, take care of each other. Much love to you all.